All right, folks. Well, we have Elyse to welcome today. And I was joking with her earlier because I was saying from the yoga mat to an interview here, isn't that sort of funny? And then nobody would know what that means except us. So I met Elyse in a yoga class. And what was so fun about it is that it was at the end, everybody had left, and she was the one lingering person. So I thought, I think I need to do a reel today. This would be a good opportunity for my picture to be taken. And then I thought, why don't I ask this person? And she was so gracious. And Elyse, what I loved that you did, because you made me look so much better than I could have ever imagined.
Never.
You coached me and you said, put up your leg. And I said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have thought of doing that. And that picture was one of my most engaged posts ever. So
I love, sometimes I think, we get so distracted by what we think we might look like, but then, from an outside perspective, it was like you had this beautiful aura around you and this lighting, and it was like absolutely get a leg up there. And again, like to me, it was also that I felt like I wanted to talk to you. So I'm so happy that it worked out.
oh, that's so great. I love it. Well, tell us about who you are. The big
Sure
question.
thing. So I'm a lot of things, but I'll start with the fact that I'm the founder of a company called Bloom Bras. I founded it out of frustration after years of not being able to find a sports bra that worked for me. And so I'd written the business plan in 1999. And it took me obviously a long time to actually build up the confidence to do it. And I kept saying, somebody is going to create a line of sports bras for curvy women. And when they do, I can't wait. If I were to do it, here's what I would do. And it finally got to this point right before my 40th birthday where I said, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to really rock the boat and create the bra that works for me. So I wanted something that was adjustable and breathable and didn't have underwire and didn't make me feel like I was wearing a suit of armor. So I brought in the top minds from NASA and shipping and packaging experts and the woman who does all the corsetry work for Oprah and ballerinas and opera singers. And I said, this is my dream. This is my vision. Let's do it. Let's see what happens next. And so here we are. Now we go from a 28C to a 56L and been around for about 6 years.
Wow. Wow. What a range of sizes. I didn't know that. Oh my goodness. That's fascinating. Well, and I have your bra. I'm very excited to try it out. And I will say, everybody, man, that thing is engineered beautifully. It is beautiful. It's amazing. I mean, you can tell how much thought was put into it. It's really amazing. And this is also kind of funny about our journey together, because I remember saying, when you mentioned it to me in that yoga class or after the yoga class, and I was telling you that I still had a Nike bra that I used from 20 years ago. And I remember you saying, oh, we got to get you into something different. So I'm very happy to have yours.
Absolutely. Well, it's so interesting because again, for me, I was creating a product for me. I was never with the intention of actually starting a company. It was more of something that I wanted to see if I could do. And what was so interesting is when I started to do some of the research, I went to Facebook. I put out a Facebook post and I just said, hey, I'm looking for women in the Bay Area that are between these sizes. I know this is wacky, but I've got some prototypes I'd just love for you to try. And I had 169 people show up at my 1-bedroom apartment. And the first thing that I say to every single person is, what size bra do you think you wear? And almost to a T, you get the eye roll and somebody says, I don't know, somewhere between this and this. Or here's my favorite bra. It's from 20 years ago. And you look at this thing and it's like, there's no fiber left, but it's like, it's the most comfortable thing. So, and it works, right? So why would I change it? So I'm totally with you.
Well, I love that I'm not alone. And I love that so many people showed up. And how telling is that We need more
Yeah. And
supportive sports bras for women of that size, like us.
yeah,
Well, I want to, yep, go ahead.
no, I was just to say 70% of women now in the US are D cup or above. So we're not alone.
Really? 70% are a D cup or above. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that. I also found it fascinating, your stat around the fact that our bodies change by 10% every month. Is that right?
Yeah, about 10%, excuse me, on average a month. And that's without any major weight gains or loss, and without some big hormonal shift like pregnancy. Yeah, our bodies change about 10% through a month. So if you notice that your bra is fitting different from one day to about 4 days later, and you're like, well, this is weird, this doesn't seem right, that's actually totally normal. So if you're a B cup, it's not a big deal. But if you're, a triple D, that's a full cup size that you're fluctuating. And so, I think it's important for us to notice and to realize that. So even when we go in and we get fitted for a bra, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be your bra size in every bra brand, or that that's going to be the bra for you every day.
Oh, that's really good. Good to know. Yeah. Well, I want to come back to something that you said when you were introducing yourself, and you were talking about this business plan, and you said about getting up the confidence. Tell us about that, because you had this strong vision. And I want you to know that this podcast is all about confidence. And especially with somebody like you that has this thriving business and you've built other businesses, we all are probably looking at you going, how did she not have, how is that possible? And so tell us about that.
Yeah. So I will tell you this, right? There was every couple of years I'd pull out this business plan and I would say, well, I would do it if, right? I would do it if I had more money. I would do it if I had more time. I would do it if I won the lottery, right? There's a lot of I would do it ifs. And I kept, it became the thing that would keep me up at night, where I would start to research statistics, or I did a half marathon, my first half marathon that I ever ran. I there was this amazing speaker who was talking about how she just made it through her third round of breast cancer, and that in no scenario should she have been standing there that day, but she was. And she gave this a very eloquent speech that I would love to sum up, but I won't do it in the same way that she did, where she said, it doesn't matter if I crawl or if I walk or if I run, or if you guys carry me over a finish line tomorrow. My mind has never been clearer. My spirit has never been stronger. My body is catching up. And I thought about all the resilience that we have as women specifically. And I said, what is holding me back? Right now, I've got my health. Mm-hmm. I have enough money where I can afford. My initial investment, by the way, was about $3,000. So I can afford this $3,000. But that was my initial investment. That's not my investment in the company. But to get a prototype made of this vision, this dream that I have, and my determination was stronger than it had ever been. And so I put together a Kickstarter. I did these prototypes, and then I put together a Kickstarter, and I had over 240,000 people come through the Kickstarter page in 3 weeks without any paid spend. And so that really, that gave me the confidence to say, okay, there is something here. And if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And there's never going to be a better time than right now. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to throw everything into it. And I did. And so that $3,000 turned into a lot more than that. But I was able to raise enough on my Kickstarter to pay for the first order and to pay for part of my utility patent. And again, for me, it was more just it also gave me the kick in the tush to get it going. Mm-hmm. And by the way, every day I still have to wake up and remind myself that that this is what I've dedicated myself to. It is a roller coaster, and I do not say that entrepreneurship is for everyone, especially in a consumer product world, and in a pandemic. Nonetheless, the business has been up and down and left and right, and so every curveball that is thrown, I think, has tested my confidence and has tested my resilience. So while I do put on a strong front, it doesn't mean that I don't have everyday imposter syndrome.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because it's so relatable. If you think about one example in your life, what would you say has been one of the most challenging moments in business, or could be personal or business? I know it's a huge question.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm going to give you two examples.
Perfect.
Both are actually related to Bloom bras, even though I have many other examples. One was when I finally found a factory that would do that would create my product for me. And so I spent about 10 months working with them to perfect everything from the materials we were using to the seams. For me, quality was the number one, number one thing that I was trying to make sure that we captured in this product. It is absolutely, it's very engineered, and for good reason, right? You're not going to use the same size to carry a 3-pound weight as you would a 12-pound weight. And so with that, I found the factory I wanted to use, went through this whole process, and then 3 days before the product is supposed to ship, I get a phone call from the factory owner saying, hey, I think there's a misunderstanding. I'd already paid for everything. They had all of my patterns, and they said, we're not doing this product line. And, if you do want it, it's going to be at least another year.
What?
Because we have other orders that came in that are bigger. And so I had options, right? My options were to scream and swear and do all the things, to cry my eyes out, which I did, and give up, right? Which was, by the way, which would have been an okay option at that time. Or number 3 is get on a plane and find another factory. So 24 hours later, I was on a plane to find another factory. And with that, it set me back almost a full year, and obviously a lot of time, energy, and money. But I ended up building my dream, which was a sustainable factory, which I would never have done had that horrible obstacle come up. And I always say, right, that I can spin it and make that a positive today, but it didn't feel like it at the time. The second one, which I'm still dealing with, and I will not name the retailer, but a very large retailer, had agreed to put our product in, and it was supposed to be in stores June of 2020. And I fought very hard to make it so that they included our entire line. A lot of retailers want to only carry our smaller sizes, and that to me is cherry picking, and it breaks the brand. So this particular retailer, we had agreed it was going to go into 26 of their stores. And if you can work backwards, June of 2020, the order never was accepted, and it got turned away and sent to my personal home. So 4,000 bras showed up at my home in May of 2020, and with no home for those bras. And so that was again, it was one of those moments in time where you say, because I'm self-funded, right? So that was a very big hit to me financially, but also emotionally. And so as a business person, you have to then take a step back and say, how do I maintain profitability? How do I not take this as a personal dig?
Yeah.
And how do I find the will to want to keep going with this business? And so that's something that, here we are 2 years later, I'm still dealing with that.
Oh
So,
my gosh. Okay. So you got to tell us, how did you move forward?
well, I think one of the things that happened at that time was that there were more and more people online and seeking out comfortable bras, seeking out sports bras, willing to spend more on underwear you're free, because I think a lot of us started to realize, especially sitting on Zoom calls all day and then exercising at our homes, that it was time to start investing in products that actually made us feel good.
Okay.
And so I put a lot more effort into our online marketing. I spent hours and hours and hours learning how to optimize Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and most recently, I am way too old, but I am learning TikTok.
Woohoo! Okay, I want to go back for a moment because I know for you, you've just got this gumption and you just keep going and going. But I'm thinking about you and with these 4,000 bras,
Yep.
feeling so discouraged and all the things. What is it? And thinking about advice for any woman listening right now, what is it that kept you going?
So there's a couple things. So for me personally, being able to actually talk to customers, and when I get somebody who says to me something like, I've never been able to find a bra and this has changed my life, or I bought one and now I've bought four, or I've bought them for my sisters and my aunts, my best friend. That's what keeps me going. And there are so many days where I wake up and I say to myself, I should just do something else, right? I did it. I'm very proud of the work that was done. We've been written up, Bloom Bras has been written up in hundreds of publications and has been featured in a lot of amazing partnerships and retailers. I did it. I should move on. But then there's those days where I say, I'm not done with this. This isn't, these challenges only make me stronger, make me push harder. That doesn't mean that there aren't, like, I took several months last year. I took several months off and just said, I'm pulling all of our ads. I am taking a break. I had the opportunity, and I went to a warm climate, and I did some deep diving into what I really wanted to be doing with my life, and came back and said, you know what, I've had this dream, I've had this passion. If I don't continue going, then I'm essentially I'm walking away from my dream. And so every day I have to wake up and remind myself of that.
That's amazing. Well, to me, that goes back to the why. There's this burning desire, the purpose that you have behind, and I think for anybody listening to, whatever your purpose is, to find it or figure out what is that thing you're really passionate about. And I love that you took time off to figure out what was most important to you. And I know everybody listening can't afford to take a longer period of time off, but whether it's a day or whether it's a period of months or weeks, what would you say is the best value of doing that?
I think evaluating, right? So if you think of it as data points, if I'm looking at the health of my business, for instance, I can look and I can say, okay, well, here's the financial health. Here's our ROI. Here's, our return on investment. Here is, here are the employees that we have. Here's what our spend is on that. Here's where we need to fill gaps. But I think we need to do that in our personal lives as well. We're all given the same amount of minutes every day. And when you wake up in the morning, right, how do you spend those minutes? For me, when I was in my my unhealthiest time, I was running two businesses. So I was running my product development consultancy and Bloom Bras, and I was teaching yoga as a way to pay bills because I hired all these employees, and it was my way of justifying those costs. And I was working 20 hours a day, and I was not taking care of my personal life. I was not taking care of my personal health, etc. And burnout is a real thing. And so when the pandemic hit, and businesses kind of, I would say, everybody went remote, everybody was able to slow down a little bit. For me, that slowdown meant taking a step back and saying, whoa, everything is unhealthy right now. And if I don't take care of myself, it doesn't matter what's happening with my business or my family or my, my future. I need to take this time and I need to do a reset, do a data point analysis on my life, and then figure out where to spend those minutes. So if you think of minutes as dollars, if I'm spending all of my money in putting good money into bad investments, that is not how I run, that's not how we would run a business.
Right.
So
That's
my life. Right. I had to say the same thing and say, I'm putting all these minutes and effort and time into not the right investments. And so taking the step back for me was really, it was actually a life-saving opportunity.
wow. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I want to transition to the challenges that you have faced related to being in a male-dominated industry. I know you've got tons of stories, but could you pull one that you would say, okay, this was so asinine, and yet I walked through it?
Yeah, I'll give you, again, I have so many stories there.
I know you do.
So I'll stick with the Bloom Bras theme. So I tried to raise money. I am self-funded, so I never raised, but I tried. I spoke to about 100 investors, and one of the ones that I tell this story because it was the most asinine thing, and it actually pushed me harder to build this company. Was I was at a meeting with a couple of angel investors. They all happened to be older white men, and they looked at my business and they said, wow, this is great. We love the numbers. We love the market opportunity. We love the research you've done and the work that you've done. And we love your background. I spent 25 years in product development and marketing, et cetera. So they said, we want to take the bet on you, but we have a couple of questions first. And I said, okay, great. And, I had practiced and I knew my numbers backwards and forwards. And the first question that they said was, we noticed you don't have a ring on your finger. Are you married? Do you have a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, husband, wife? And I kind of, was very taken aback by the question. And I said, well, I'm not sure how that's relevant. Right. And so the gentleman rephrased the question and he said, well, what about children? Do you have children? And I said, again, I'm not sure how that's relevant to my business. And he said, well, what happens if you accidentally get pregnant? And my jaw hit the table. Like, I think it reverberated throughout the restaurant. Because in all of my wildest dreams, I never thought that I would be asked that question. Yeah. And so I gave an answer. And again, I have so many things I wish I had said at that moment, but I gave an answer. I've built and scaled multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. And there are, if you accidentally got pregnant there, which by the way, is very difficult to do. But if I accidentally got pregnant, right, I would have a contingency plan. And from that, I ended the meeting quickly and I walked out. I went to my car, and for the first time in my career, I cried. I mean, I bawled. I was
Wow.
so upset by this question. And 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 the fact that I didn't have the right answer, I wanted so badly to afterwards go back in and say, you would never ask a man that question. You would never in a million years ask somebody, something like, well, what would happen if you got cancer or something along those
Right.
lines? Like those questions
Yeah,
would never come up. But because I
exactly.
was a woman, you know, at a certain age, which by the way, right, like we know, we know, we know that getting pregnant after a certain age, accidentally, the chances are probably pretty minimal. But it just was such a
Ugh.
shocking experience to me. And, I still to this day grapple with how I would, if I were to go back in time, how I would deal with that.
Yeah. What do you
But it was definitely a very telling moment for women. You know, we get less than I think now we're just over 2% of funding, BC funding. And even with that, it is so skewed towards female funded but male backed companies. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, and so I think, as women, as we move into this next, I hope that the future generations don't have to deal with the things that our generation has had to deal with. I mean, I grew up in manufacturing, so I have stories upon stories of negative experiences, that I like to say built my character and actually built my resilience, and gave me some of the language and words to get out of difficult situations that hopefully future generations don't have to deal with. But yeah.
Why? Wow. Well, I love the fact that you said, I don't understand how that's relevant. Talk about quick on your feet, because I think a lot of women might have just answered without thinking, because so many of us tend to just assume we need to answer a question that someone is asking like that.
Yeah.
It's just, wow, so powerful. And just thank you for your warriorness. I mean, I just feel like that's what you are, is this warrior that has gone through so many things, and yet you keep standing with that purpose in mind and the bigger mission that you have to serve so many women. And I'm wondering, as we wrap up, what question have I not asked you that you would like me to ask?
Oh, I don't know. I guess the question that I often ask is, if I were to, and I'll ask it to you, right? Like if you were to give some advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, and by the way, that doesn't mean somebody who's 22 coming out of college, right? Aspiring entrepreneurs, I think especially women, as we get to a certain point in our lives, where we start to question are we happy? Are we doing what we want? What is our legacy? What would your advice be?
Ooh, well, as somebody who was 52 when she left her corporate job in 2020, I'd say trust your gut and go for it. Too
Mhm.
often what we do is we hold back because we think we shouldn't, or all the things that society tells us or we tell ourselves, all that self-doubt. So I'm on a personal mission to banish that self-doubt. How about you?
I love that so much. I would say similar, but also surround yourself with people who've done it, who inspire you, and ask a ton of questions.
Mm.
I think that that's, as women, I heard this once, and I wish that, again, I wish I had written it down so that I could say it as eloquently, but somebody had said to me once, when a man walks into a networking event, and this is very stereotypical, so I'm just, I want to preface it with that. When
Sure.
a man walks into an event, they walk up and it's very transactional. How can you help me? And when women walk into an event, we're oftentimes trying to make a connection. I love your shoes. I love your earrings. Do you have
Yes.
kids? Do you have a pet? And I think we as women, that is a beautiful thing, right? We build community that way. But I would also say, like, be direct, ask the questions, and feel free to be bold, right, with those questions.
Yes. That's such a beautiful way to wrap up. Yes. Be bold. Step into your confidence. So Elyse, where can people find you?
Bloom Bras is www.bloombras.com. And feel free to reach out anytime. If you send any notes through that, through our chat, they at some point will get to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for being your approachable self too. I love your willingness to be vulnerable. So awesome. So we can all learn from that.
Well, this was so much fun, and I can't wait to see you on the mat and off the mat.